led off by, the scenario where it's just a self-inflicted wound by the Mets. Number one, I mean, the idea of players not responding well to, fans booing. We've seen it before, whether it be, Jack McDowell flipping the Yankee fan, the Bird going back, to the mid-'90s, or, other players not reacting well at Whitson. I mean, there have been, historically speaking, a number of players, obviously, that just don't fit this marketplace. Sonny Gray didn't fit New York City, not to the level that we're about to speak about with Javier Baez and Francisco Lindor and company deciding to, number one, push back on the fans with the thumbs down. But the idea of coming out and actually speaking about it, speaking to it, instead of saying, well, it's something internal, the idea that going out there and addressing it, saying that we need better from the fans and, you boo us when we don't have success, so therefore when we have success, we're going to boo you and you're going to get the thumbs down, as you saw from Kevin Pillar, Francisco Lindor, and amazingly enough, Javier Baez with his child on his knee yesterday addressing this with the media. I mean, you're watching, you're saying this can't be. I mean, you can't, number one, you can't be that stupid. You just can't be that dumb. You can't have that kind of a self-inflicted wound where you are a player. You want to push back on the fans? You want to say you're bothered by the fans booing? I mean, I get it. You're never going to win a battle with the fans. And also the fans help pay your salary by showing up to the ballpark, and every player's salary throughout the course of Major League Baseball and really professional sports when you look at it. I mean, the fans are the reason why. The popularity, TV ratings, showing up, buying stuff, all of those things, Maggie, lead a league to be successful. So you want to go out there and you want to say you're bothered by the fans booing, you're bothered by the fans' reactions on social media. That's fine, but that comes part and parcel with being a professional athlete. Yep. You're getting paid to do a job. So if Tom, Dick, and Harry show up, Citi Field, Yankee Stadium, it doesn't matter. They decide to boo, as long as it does not get violent, as long as it does not get taken to another level. I mean, if they boo, they have every right to go out there and boo. And there's some fans that do, and there's some fans that don't. But listen, if you're bothered by that as a player, that's one thing. The second aspect of it, to actually come out and say it, I mean, it's so mind-bogglingly dumb. I could not believe when Javier Baez went out yesterday and said this is what they are doing because of the fans' reaction to their lack of success. I said to myself, you can't be that stupid. No, I mean, you just can't be. You cannot go out there and explain the reason why you're doing it.
No, this is so awful. But Javier Baez, who just got here, right, and has maybe no knowledge of New York or maybe didn't have a knowledge of what it's like to play here and how it might be a little different playing here when you've done absolutely nothing for this fan base as opposed to Chicago where you broke this decades-long curse, okay? You're not going to curry the same kind of favor here with the fans. But what bothers me the most about this, and it's not even close, is not Javier Baez. It's Francisco Lindor. This is a guy who took the money. Number one, took the money to play here and is going to be here for the next decade. The other thing about Lindor is that at most he gets praised because of what? Not just that he's a great player, but it's been an awful year for him, but because of the leadership qualities. The leadership qualities for Francisco Lindor were one of the big things that they touted about him starting to change the culture around the Mets. So what happens? Things are getting tough. He's having a terrible season. He's also been hurt. The Mets are in a free fall. They were in first. Now there's 7 games out. The playoffs are a pipe dream right now. So what happens when adversity hits? You get petty? You get petty and take it back out on the fans? This is somebody who's supposed to be leading the way here. And to be honest, the thing about Lindor, it takes two. They were offering you the money, and I get you would never turn down $341 million. But when you do take the money, you take on a responsibility. How could you not have talked to other players who have been in New York during the good times, but more importantly, during the bad times, Moose, and tried to figure out what is it going to be like when there's hell to pay from the fans? Paul LaDuca was tweeting last night about how they were on a 10-game winning streak at one point on a Mets team he was on. They come home, they lose to the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, worst team in baseball at the time, and the fans booed him. And he was like, all right, this is what I'm in for here. They don't care that we just won 10 straight. We lost to the Pirates. We're getting booed. I hope that Francisco Lindor spoke to some of those Mets teams that were way more talented than this team and failed in a much bigger way to understand what it's going to be like here because we're stuck with this guy now. This is it. He's here now. And if he wants to be this great leader and he wants to be beloved, well, oh my goodness, this is going to be a crazy newsflash. You've got to earn it with this crowd.
Well,
how is that news to anyone? And the fact that Lindor got petty is the worst part of this. Baez is going to be gone, and he can't stay now. It doesn't matter what kind of run. The Mets aren't going on a run, first of all. It doesn't matter. He's gone. There's no possible way that they can re-sign him after this year. No possible way. But Lindor's here. This is it.
Yeah,
and you decided to troll the fan base?
Well, I get it, and you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. So now you have a question about whether or not Lindor can handle New York, and the early returns are he can't.
He cannot.
Right, and so, but you've got him for the next 10 years at $341 million, and you're looking to try and get the best out of Francisco Lindor. But, he is, honestly, he has reacted to the booing. He talked about that, he's not responded well to it. It's not something he's familiar coming from the Cleveland marketplace, and Baez talking about, the atmosphere in Chicago with the Cubs fans. It's also different. I mean, Javier Baez was part of a team that finally won a World Series. So, I mean, even if Baez is struggling, they're not going to get on him because he finally it was part of that crew that helped deliver a championship to that city and part of that team. So that plays into it as well. But the Lindor one is huge. But everyone celebrated when Baez came here. And I know Javier Baez said it was his idea, but clearly had the backing of Francisco Lindor. And now you've got Lindor locked up 10 years, $341 million past this season. Well, what would lead you to believe that Francisco Lindor is all of a sudden going to figure out New York City? He's remarkably thin-skinned. And, before he signs that 10-year, $341 million deal, after the Italian dinner with Steve Cohen, when he had the chicken parmesan, you say to yourself, well, they're offering you the money, but is this atmosphere the right place for me in order to be successful, in order to be able to thrive? And the early returns are no. But I did think, and I heard Recco make the point this morning, I did think maybe Lindor had the come-to-Jesus moment when he had that presser about a week and a half ago out there in California where he said, no one could get on for me about my defense. No one could get on me about my base running, my offense. Yes, I've been terrible this year, right?
So acknowledged what we've all been watching.
Finally, had to acknowledge everything that so maybe Lindor, I thought maybe that was a good moment for Francisco Lindor, understanding that, it's not all about the smiles and the chemistry and the defense and the base running. You were here to be a dynamic offensive force, and he has not been. But yet now I think the alarm bells go off.
Petty.
Fair point about Javier Baez. It is petty. And it's a very, very fair criticism when you look at Francisco Lindor because he's not going anywhere. So regardless of who the GM, who the head of baseball operations are, who is the manager after this season, you've got a player that clearly in this marketplace has no idea how to handle it or how to handle failure or the expectations. Fans want you to be successful. You will be celebrated like a conquering hero if you are successful. But mind you, along with that contract comes the pressure to perform. And if you don't perform, people are going to boo you. That comes along with it. They're not going to cheer a pop-out with the bases loaded with the opportunity to drive in the game-winning runs. That is not happening here in New York City.
Yeah, all because you have a good smile. Nobody cares. Nobody cares you haven't done anything here yet. And, you are only going to get a grace period up to so long. And I think that fans were somewhat patient with Francisco Lindor a little bit this year. And then the booing started a little bit. And then he got hurt. And, it's just been a rough first season. And now Lindor's got to make this right. I mean, I hope that he's not going to be as defiant as Javier Baez was. What Javier Baez says is irredeemable, but you know what? He has no currency here. And he's also got no future here. He's barely been here. I expect absolutely nothing from Javi Baez. I was hoping he'd come in and be a great player for the Mets and that they would stay in first place. But obviously the team's just not good enough this year. But I'm not expecting anything from Baez. I'm expecting a lot from Francisco Lindor. Seriously. Make this right. And not some BS Instagram post that is going to be some transparent and then end with some kind of heart emoji or something like that. Because that's going to be even more insulting to the fan base. I don't know what's going to happen at this Sandy Alderson, whatever, everyone getting called to the principal's office or whatever today, and they're all going to get, the yelled at, or who knows what Sandy's going to even say. But the front office and the owner have validated all of the fans' concerns and frustrations with this team themselves. The general manager came out and said that the reason why they have trouble with injuries is a compliance issue. Basically called them unprofessional. The owner went on Twitter and essentially booed them on Twitter. He said that this is not professional hitters. The front office and the owner have validated every boo that has rained down on this team. So now you're not just fighting back against the fans, which is just so colossally stupid and a stupid waste of time. This is a one-way street. And the fact that guys who've been playing in the league this long don't know that is just insane. But it's also the front office who have told you this team isn't good enough. So whether it's the pressure coming from the fans, whether it's the pressure coming from the front office or the owner himself, the players have to find a way to deal with it. And this is when you figure out who is actually cut out for this market and who isn't.
Yeah,
and the fact that $341 million Smiles isn't cut out for this market is by far, the toughest, most disappointing, and biggest black cloud that's now hanging over this franchise.
Well, yeah. I think to go along with the fact that the team stinks, right? I mean, and yeah, Mr. Smiles is not going to get it done when you look at Francisco Lindor. And listen, the owner and his actions on social media, mind you, I mean, you don't have to go all the way back. Just go back to July 31st. I mean, he was poking at the naysayers and those that on social media, as he put it, let me put it out correctly, the fake handles on this site referring to social media saying, gutsy win by this no-quit team, a lot more gutsy than the naysayers with fake handles on this site. So Steve Cohen has come out there as well at times and, poke the bear when you're looking at the fan base. The fan base is, number one is, here's the message for Cohen, Alderson gets it, and everybody on the Mets team. You're never going to win a battle with the fans. You're never going to do it. I mean, ask any other player that's tried to do it in this city. It does not work. It does not work. They will be here long after you're gone. Even though Lindor's here for the next 10 years, the Met fan will be here when Lindor's playing days here at Citi Field are long and done. The fans will still be here. You're never going to win that battle. It's never going to work. So if you're Javier Baez, I mean, it's one thing to think about that if it was, just solely his idea or the idea of he and Lindor and the idea of actually doing it, but then to explain it afterward, I still can't believe he actually went out there and did it. Then I'm sure the tongue lashing that Steve Cohen gave Sandy Alderson, then Alderson puts out that statement last night and that there will be a meeting. And then you get to Rojas, and I've defended Rojas here. I don't know what does Luis Rojas know. I mean, he has no idea what Syndergaard, who's now tested positive for COVID and has had another setback in his rehab process, but had no idea that Syndergaard was down to just 2 pitches that he could medically get cleared to throw, which is a fastball and a changeup, right? And I called it out, and we said, okay, well, I mean, I was surprised by it. Nothing, I guess, should surprise you with the Mets. And then Luis Rojas has no idea. And I get you could poke fun and say, well, the Mets haven't been scoring many runs, so there have not been many celebrations on the field. That's fair. But the idea that Rojas has no idea when this is going down of what is going on around his players, when his great strength as a young manager is supposed to be, because he's not been a great tactician. He's had boneheaded mistakes, double switches, all of these things. And we said, well, he'll get better with the experience. But the big thing has been the communication with the players, the ability to connect with the players. Rojas had no idea what that meant, what the thumbs down meant. You're the manager of the team. How exactly you are in that clubhouse on a day-in, day-out basis. How exactly, with that going on for the better part of a week, how exactly do you not know that is what is going on if you're Luis Rojas?
This is why every single person is on the hot seat right now with the Mets. Every single person. Whether it's going to be Luis Rojas, whether it's going to be Sandy Alderson, whether it's going to be anyone, front office, player personnel. This is the thing, though, about like Sandy's meeting today. And this is like a reality of professional sports. If you're Francisco Lindor and Sandy Alderson comes in to chastise you for pulling off this ridiculous thing and trolling your own fan base, what is Lindor going to say? Who's going to be here longer, me or you?
No, I get it.
Francisco Lindor will be here longer than Sandy Alderson. He knows that. And I just think that, first of all, Cohen joking about it on Twitter, I felt like really undercut kind of Sandy's seriousness and the seriousness of that statement. But also, like, how does Sandy even win this battle? How are you going to get this across to anybody? Pilar's already, trying to explain himself on Twitter. Taijuan Walker sending out just laughing, crying emojis, stuff like that. I just think this is so broken. Like, this is, who's going to actually take this seriously?
Maggie, I hopefully they all do. I mean, and well, you're going to say, well, they're not going to take it clearly from Sandy Alderson. Well, then.
Because everyone's on the hot seat because this team stinks.
Well, I get it, and they're going to clean house. I get it. But for Francisco Lindor personally, I can't speak to every single man, but for Lindor personally, it's got to be a wake up moment here. I mean, enough. Put the big boy pants on. You got paid. You're a professional athlete. You're supposed to be a superstar in this league. You've underperformed. The boos are going to come. This is not Cleveland. All right, it's not Chicago. This is not Los Angeles. You're not playing college where where teams are going to be celebrated regardless of what you do. It's New York City. Put the big boy pants on and have an understanding of where you just signed, where you're playing this year and 10 more years of baseball, conceivably, and getting paid $341 million, nearly $370 million you're going to get paid, with this year and the next 10 combined. Understand that. I don't know if he gets it, Maggie. I don't know if he gets it because Baez comes here. He wanted his running mate. I said it at the time. We were on the MLB trade deadline day. We were filling in for Craig and Evan throughout the course of the afternoon. And you and I both wanted Chris Bryant, for a myriad of different reasons. Right? Met fans celebrated that day that Lindor's buddy Javier Baez was coming here, that you were going to get the best out of Francisco Lindor. Well, the team has completely swallowed their tongues, right? Baez got hurt. Lindor finally returned to this team after being on the IL. And now you get this nonsense with this group and this leadership. And the Mets, as you mentioned last week, which was a good point, should be brought up once again, which is that the fact that the Mets go out there and love to pat themselves on the back. Love to pat themselves on the back, and they continue to do so. Guys, you stink. I mean, let's call it like it is. Enough is enough. If Rojas doesn't have the gravitas to be able to say it because he does not have the backing of the organization, Scott called him out. Sandy is kind of in the shadows, right? You got Steve Cohen on social media calling this team out. Let's be honest, guys. You haven't gotten the job done. As much as you want to pat yourself on the back, you know what? It's not good enough. Offensively, you have been downright terrible. And don't point the fingers at the fans for the reason why that you've been bad. Or you know what? We need your support. You haven't done anything all season long. You've done nothing offensively all season long. How much longer can the fans sit there and say, you know what? Go get them next night. Go get them the next night. You went 2-11 in 13 games against the Giants and the Dodgers combined. You know what? You went from first place to third place in the blink of an eye, got swept down in Philadelphia against the Phillies, and you have Alonso basically telling you the sun will come up tomorrow. This is what we're dealing with the Met fan, with the Met team right now, and we gave them a lot of credit about what that clubhouse looked like and how much everyone loved one another and how good of a group it is. Well, Maggie, that's nonsense too, because look at what this group is doing right now and look at how this group is pushing back on the fans.
Yeah, they've lost 12 of their last 16, but no, it's the fans' fault. Fans got to be better. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, my God.
Javier Baez saying the fans have to be better. He understands that we're not on the payroll, right? We make the payroll. We're not on the payroll. It's not our job to make you better. It's not our job to make you better. 877-337-6666. Wow. I just thought the straight up losing was going to be the story of the 2021 Mets. I thought just underachievement, just your run of the mill kind of, just disappointment was really going to be the story of the 2021 Mets. But as the Mets will always do, just hold my beer. We got something. Right. We got something even bigger coming for you.
On a Sunday night in August, Alderson is issuing a statement trying to clean up the relationship and how important the fans are, and that the organization will never support the players pushing back on the fans.